What's going on? This is the Saturday Down South podcast. I am Connor O'Gara. Will, how are we doing? We're clashing today. I'm wearing red. You're wearing orange. We usually don't try and color coordinate, but I feel like today is the first time in a while where I've noticed a legitimate clash.
Well, it's a throwback to the old Heat logo and kind of a move of solidarity with them. Got a little bit of orange and red. We look
What are
like
you
the
talking
sun.
about? Heat
I have
logo.
the sun right here, So
Okay.
remember the old Heat logo was red with orange in it.
Yeah,
90s.
I mean, I'm just saying, the Bulls won a play-in game. They're going to be facing the Heat. I am currently wearing my Horace Grant Rec Specs shirt, and that's probably why we are literally clashing. That's why the Heat, which is like not even a team you root for, you're just throwing that in my face. I actually don't really care that much if the Bulls win or lose in the playoffs. I'll be perfectly honest with you, but
unlike me, who has just been put through hell by the Pelicans. I'm not even going to get into how funny it is that the Pelicans are in this situation, but only the Pelicans could be in this situation. And I'm hopefully, luckily, going to be missing it because I'm going to Austin this weekend. So I just will get to wake up and see what the Pelicans did, and hopefully they didn't let me down.
There you go. Yeah, no, they can't hurt you anymore. I think a lot of people feel that way. Sports can't hurt me at this point. We have a good show, really good show lined up. Hester's going to join us in a bit. A lot of different things to be able to discuss with him, some LSU stuff, some running back stuff, some draft stuff with him. Great conversation as always. And then we're going to end with Pitch Me, SEC mascots. We are going to settle on the best SEC mascot. But first, Will, it feels like this week you knew the conversation was going to be about the transfer portal, the post-spring window opening up on Tuesday, why they did it on a Tuesday instead of a Monday. Just weird. It had a lot of people confused. But nonetheless, the early portal returns is what we're going to discuss today. I feel like so far it's been a somewhat underwhelming start to the post-spring window with the perspective that we came in with earlier this week. We just got the news, I think it was from Ryan Fowler, who first reported that Ty Simpson is not going to be entering the transfer portal. Maybe
I love that's news now. It's like I'm returning to class for the following semester.
That tells you the way that things have played out so far, is that's maybe one of the biggest headlines so far, is that a guy isn't entering the portal. We have not gotten chaos, at least not yet. I expected chaos. While I do think the total number of guys that will enter in the post-spring transfer portal will be well ahead of any other post-spring window that we've seen, just in terms of the total numbers. I think so far, as of this recording, one of the biggest headlines is just the NCAA officially announcing that athletes in good academic standing are able to transfer as many times as they want, something that we've known. Yeah, right. Breaking.
And let's do that on Wednesday, and then we'll just all make it up as we go along,
Yeah, really. Who couldn't have seen that one coming from a mile away? But good on the NCAA to make that official. As we record this, I would argue that there has not been a massive headliner who has entered the portal so far in this post-spring window. I am definitely 100% jinxing it by saying that, and we're going to get cold takes because that's the way that this works. But we have some good, some solid, but nothing earth-shattering in terms of the portal entries. As of Thursday afternoon, it doesn't quite feel like the doomsday that people like our friend Matt Hayes were predicting, myself included. A lot of people have been talking about this for weeks because it did feel like everything was trending in that direction with the lack of enforcement with the portal. I'm going to try and not say the word portal 500 times today, but I feel like I'm already at 400, so apologies if you get sick of the word portal. It's already starting to sound weird with how often I've said it. We're at that place. That's not good. But now I find myself wondering how many situations were taken care of behind the scenes with collectives, with stuff like that, or if the portal chaos that was anticipated was the type of rumor that spreads from paranoid coaches who are bracing themselves for the worst because that's just in their nature. There's paranoia, and then there's whatever a college football coach is. Even Mac Brown, who is as likable and as transparent as any coach in this profession, announced that UNC agreed on a deal with the ACC network not to broadcast UNC's spring game because they have a quarterback battle. They didn't want to show the Jeff Collins defense. All right. Paranoid.
Cowards. Put your bad defense on television like we had to and face all the critics.
Whoa, we do not stand for Jeff Collins slander. It will be a great defense. We're not going to talk about defensive improvement because that would throw shade at a certain Gene Chizik, and I'm not here to do that. I will just say that I have all
It's a secret weapon. Good point. We got to keep it close to the vest, so when the opponents see it, they won't know it hit them. I like the strategy. Okay,
exactly. The paranoia that could have happened. Well, what's a better way to say this? It feels like paranoia got in the way of some chaos. There is paranoia within the SEC still because this is another year in which the SEC still will not allow intra-conference transfers to play immediately if they enter in the post-spring window. I hate that. I still hate that. I hated it last year. I hated it the year before that. I hate it more than ever now because we're at a time where we have guys that can transfer as many times as they want. And the SEC is the only one out here trying to do this. And yes, I get it. You might feel better about your team. But again, we're talking about guys having the freedom to be able to transfer as many times as they want. And this policy is rooted entirely in paranoia. Coaches don't want their intel released within conference. They feel like it would be a total feeding frenzy if teams could post from within the conference, even though that's exactly what they do once the regular season ends. Rosters, scholarship limitations would probably prevent it from being a total free-for-all if the SEC actually allowed intra-conference transfers in the post-spring window. But hey, what do I know? Will, as a fan, if you were told that tomorrow, hey, spring transfers, we're going to allow them within the SEC and not punish you by sitting you a year, would you say, as an LSU fan, that's a win, or would you default to paranoia?
I mean, yeah, I think at this point, anyone who's holding on to like clutching their pearls is just kind of behind. And let me ask you one question too. So, let's say, and this is actually like the highest rated guy I can find that is coming from one of these schools. So it's not like a specific example. Jamon Tapp, right? Played at a Big 12 school at Texas, but now they're entering the SEC. So he is now subject to this window.
Yes, you are subject to this window because it's dependent on where you're going to be playing this upcoming season. That's what it's all about. Yeah, which even that feels weird, doesn't it? I don't know. It just feels it feels very much like a rule that we're going to look back on. It's going to change eventually. Like brace for it. It will change, and we'll eventually look back on it. Or maybe the portal itself will change, and the SEC will be like, "See, this is why we didn't allow intra-conference transfers the way that we did." But it just feels very, very outdated with how much mobility is allowed elsewhere. And I know that some people will say, "Well, it's the SEC holding on to yesterday." You know, we don't need to talk more about this. We've talked enough about this. I do know that this quarterback market was probably the one thing that we were right about, or at least that I actually feel kind of right about. So far, it is even more limited than last year. And again, that's with the context that Ty Simpson will not be entering the transfer portal. But let's look back at the names that we had in the post-spring window at quarterback last year. We talked about this before. TJ Finley, Peyton Thorne, Jalen Henderson, Tyler Buckner, Casey Thompson, Ben Bryant. Compare that to this year's group of post-spring quarterback transfers so far as of Thursday afternoon. Ja'Cory Brown from Miami, Jacoby Criswell from Arkansas, Timmy McClain from UCF, and Nick Evers from Wisconsin. Definitely more baloney than prosciutto in this post-spring quarterback transfer class. A little callback for the people.
Yep. Was not expecting that. I was trying to process all these names at the same time, and you're just like gabagool in my ear, which I appreciate.
You know, people get it. Everybody knows now from now on when I refer to a quarterback as bologna instead of prosciutto, they don't need to, they don't need to necessarily look it up on Urban Dictionary. They know exactly what I'm talking about, as should you. Okay, we get it. If I'm an Auburn fan, there's nothing about this market that tells me I'm necessarily in need of a quarterback. And that's kind of frustrating. Nothing in this market jumps out at you and says, oh, that guy will be better than Peyton Thorne in year 2 of this offense, or our favorite name to say on this show, bowl game hero, Hank Brown. Gotta go with that. Why not try that? I will actually say that until, I don't even know like what guy could enter the portal today or tomorrow that would make me think otherwise. It would have to be several guys getting in there that would make me think, all right, Auburn, now's the time for you to get in there, mix things up. If you are searching for your quarterback, or at least your starting quarterback in the post-spring window, something has likely gone horribly wrong for you. There are exceptions to the rule, but certainly it's not an ideal scenario for any coach to want to be in. So instead of talking about what's not available yet, let's talk about some of the guys that are available and the teams that look like significant players early on. On offense, one of the prizes of the post-spring portal so far will be Keandre Lambert-Smith, the wide receiver from Penn State. Multiple outlets reporting that he's visiting Auburn and A&M this weekend. Wouldn't be surprised if multiple SEC programs like Florida, like Bama, are inquiring about his services. On3 reported that Georgia is also in the mix, because why wouldn't Georgia be in the mix? He's not a wide receiver one, but a guy that's got 1,700 receiving yards at this level with 4 seasons of reps against the Big Ten, against those defenses. That definitely has value. Plus the fact that he's 6'1", about 2/3 of his reps came out wide, and probably the other third were in the slot. So he can fit into a lot of different offenses. And this was brewing before Penn State spring game. So it's not like he looked at Drew Aller's struggles in the spring game and said, oh, now's the time that I need to hit the portal. Maybe he
probably
looked
Drew
back
struggles. I mean, he probably had enough experience with those overall. It's like probably the spring game was the cherry. It was like, wow, if you don't throw for 300 yards in the spring game, then I'm out of here, buddy.
Yeah, and he didn't play in the spring game, so clearly there was something brewing there. It made a lot of sense when we got that official announcement. Not sure if James Franklin's hatred of taking deep shots played a part in that, but when you go back and you watch the play that guy made in the Rose Bowl, longest pass ever in the Rose Bowl, an 88-yarder he had in that game against Utah, where Sean Clifford finds him over the top. You see why this guy would like to play in an offense that pretends to actually want to stretch the field with the receivers. What a concept. I've heard
it's
that
like
actually
you're speaking
works.
Japanese to me right now, Connor.
You know, it's not so much. James Franklin could have answered that question in like 50 better ways. And that just personified everything of why he rubs me the wrong way. He wasn't going to be the guy I was going to draft in the non-SEC coach draft. He just was never going to be that
Imagine
guy.
that idiot.
By the way, your boy won 64% of the vote that I took home on the non-SEC coach draft. You got redemption coming up. You got redemption in a couple of weeks. We're drafting quarterbacks. You got time to do your prep right now. I'm giving you the advantage to be able to get out ahead of it, draft your quarterback. I don't think Drew Aller is going to be coming off the board. Just a guess. But basically, we're going to see this guy get a significant market. He's one of those guys that can truly look at scheme and not just getting on the field to pick his next destination because of his versatility, because of his experience. He's about to get taken care of pretty nicely, I would think, in this market. Another prized offensive skill player in this post-spring window. This is a guy that I think, Will, you would look at and go, man, sign me up. Would love this type of guy on my team, but I don't think it necessarily happens for LSU. But Damian Martinez, the Oregon State running back, not often.
I don't know if Oregon State transfers on this side. Could be Caleb Jackson.
Did Omar Speights ruin Oregon State transfers for you forever?
I just like maybe I sound like a homer. I just like the running back rotation. You know, I mean, I like the guys they got in there. So yeah, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dumping on him. I just know that, Brian Kelly can be a little bit sporadic with who he trusts. I think we could say that. I think there's some guys that get in and out of the doghouse there. So I'd rather just keep the guys that we know he likes than get another guy in there and go, wait, now this guy's unhappy. Now he's subtweeting us. Couldn't imagine a player doing that. Anyway.
LSU really likes Caleb Jackson too. So
yeah, exactly. That's the key.
That would probably limit it. But yeah, Damian Martinez, really good player. His first 2 years at Oregon State. You don't really see a whole lot of 1,100-yard rushers from our Power 5 program that suddenly become available in the portal unless something has gone significantly wrong. But a guy that's 6 foot, 230 pounds, played in that run-heavy Jonathan Smith offense, which I'd argue is a little bit different for those who might have a bad taste in their mouth about the Oregon State defense and the portal entries there. I would much rather take a chance on a guy in a Jonathan Smith offense. Super efficient, though, in that offense, 6 yards per carry as a freshman and as a sophomore, over 2,000 rushing yards in his first 2 collegiate seasons. That's why he's got an SEC running back market, okay? That is why there are a lot of teams that are going to look at him and go, you could step in and play tomorrow. Teams like Kentucky, teams like Mississippi State, teams that need running backs would love to be able to bring Damian Martinez on board. On3 reported that he's got visits scheduled to those places as well as Miami. I think he's at Arizona as we record this. Pretty clear based on that list that this is a guy who is looking for a place that he needs to be told, I want to be a main part of this offense. I'm not sitting here trying to, be a second string guy. I want a significant workload. I think to his credit, he has earned a significant workload wherever he ends up. I don't really fault him for leaving when you have your head coach leave. Your team is now playing in a weaker conference. You've got a new scheme. You've got new surroundings galore. So yeah, in this situation, Damian Martinez, go find a new home. Nobody's going to necessarily fault you for that. If he goes to an SEC school with all the unknown returners at running back, with just one of the top 8 leading rushers returning, I think Damian Martinez would absolutely have all SEC upside as kind of a little bit more of a throwback type player that I think would do some really, really big things.
Yeah, I think, it's funny because this window could turn into like one of these media pinches that's like, let's say like trade deadlines, like maybe like NFL trade deadline, where like one or two things happens, but we spent so long talking about it that it feels like those things end up being bigger than they are. But it's like, if you open, these portal trackers, it's like you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling to find like the real difference makers on there. Outside of like a Caden Proctor, who, credit him, he's done the best thing a player can possibly do for their stock, which is to commit to Alabama twice. So I think that outside of that guy, who again, you saw him last year, if you think he's a difference maker, good for you. But that's like the highest rated player that's still on the board right now, according to 24/7.
He's not on the board. He's off the board.
No, I know. He's off the board. I'm just saying in terms of the spring window, you know what I'm saying? So he's the do not contact, and we talked about that and everything. But in terms of like, okay, here are the quote unquote available guys in the spring window that you're hoping for. Like if you're Auburn, buddy, exactly what you just said. It's like, and like we know Auburn has more money than God. I'm not calling Auburn poor or anything, but it's the fact that, like you said, there would need to be about 3 quarterbacks, because there was one guy, it would be like, oh, well, we got like everybody and their mom is bidding for this guy. And I think that would be kind of an issue, especially when you have an incumbent starter. It's like, hey, we're about to go get $1 million in Yellowwood stock over to this random 20-year-old, and hopefully he says yes, and hopefully it doesn't fracture our locker room. So yeah, point being, I think that exactly to your point, I think this is a good place to get skill players. I think Martinez is a great example. One thing that's also been fascinating to me is this market, and this is not Martinez to be clear, but this market of like backup running backs that want to potentially still go be backup running backs. Like the guy who Pete Thamel had the tweet. He was like AAC Freshman of the Year in 2001 or in 2021. At Houston. He was at Colorado last year as a backup, and now it's like, well, I guess you go start somewhere, but you're transferring to go, I guess, be a backup somewhere else. Diggs from LSU probably gonna be in a similar situation, maybe another situation like that. At Ohio State, where they just have so many guys. And so it's interesting that this is truly like, that's what a free agency is, right? Because it's one thing to go, okay, I'm not starting here, or my coach left, I'm going to go to a better situation. It's another one to be like, I'm already kind of a backup, and I kind of just, I would rather go be a backup somewhere else, or I'd rather at least have an opening. Maybe I'm in the doghouse, maybe I'm whatever. So I think those are the type of players in terms of like skill guys. You could get some depth receivers for sure, trenches guys. I think that's where teams like, that's kind of the sneaky value here is like, oh, we got this transfer from like some, D2 or like FCS, or even like, gosh, in FSU's case, they're getting guys from everywhere, or they previously did. Right now, they're in another embargo from the NCAA, who's a very serious organization. But point being, like you have these guys kind of like come out of nowhere, and you're like, oh yeah, like who's this guy? And it turns out that it's like, wait, who's there? I am now blanking on this guy's name.
Jared Verse from Albany.
Yeah, Verse. I'm going to call him Curse because of Javon, but yeah, from Albany, right? It's like
the freak.
Oh yeah, UF fans are going, oh, Albany, that's where your guys are coming from? And it's like, wait, no, this guy's the best DN in college football. And so point being, like, there are going to be some under-the-radar moves, I think, where it's like, oh, we got, like, everyone's going to be talking up their 3-star, but probably about 5 or 6 of those guys are going to hit, and then you're going to be like, why was everyone late to this guy? So that's what I'd be looking for, is, like, more diamonds in the rough, because all the money is more or less spoken for. Like, the article came out about Ohio State spending all those millions of dollars on everything. That the big money has already been spent, to your point.
Yeah, I think that there are a few spots where it feels like almost every team will be in on it because of positional value. Positional value is really big in the post-spring window. And one of those areas is defensive tackle. And
Yep.
I'm not sure why it's played out this way. I can't nail down one specific reason. Just kind of a hard thing to get in this era through the portal. Maybe it's something with those guys don't typically leave. You remember the Bear Alexander thing that made so many headlines last year. This year, it's like, oh, he's entering the portal again. And then he comes out with a statement that he's not. I don't know.
That's news right there. For the first time since he was 14 years old, Bear Alexander's going to be on the same team for 2 years in a row. I held back my joke about have we reached out to Bear Alexander to get him on the pod to make sure he's in the portal, but he's not. He is loyalty. Hashtag loyalty. Hashtag grind. Bear Alexander, ladies and gentlemen.
The worst thing that we as human beings do on a regular basis is move. And Bear Alexander one day, maybe he figured that out. Maybe he got to USC and was like, you know what? Moving is the worst. I'm finally done. I will not make a move after this year. But yeah, so it appears he's going to be staying at USC. But getting those guys at the defensive tackle spots in the portal has been pretty difficult. The guy who is going to have a really significant market is TCU defensive tackle Dominic Williams, freshman All-American for a team that played in a national championship, and then an All-Big 12 guy, honorable mention as a sophomore. I don't know if it's just a tough thing for those guys to really look the part early on, or by the time that they figure things out, they're draft eligible. And so I don't know the trajectory of it, but to do the things that he did as an 18-year-old, as a significant contributor for a runner-up team, is going to be at the top of his resume. This was one of those guys where if you look at a lot of times when these tweets come out of like breaking this news, and there are a lot of people in this business who are really, really good. I think it was Chris Helmer who broke the news of him entering the portal. But it's just like you read the comments and it's just fans of every big time program talking about what a great fit he would be, get a few photoshops in there. It's like, that's when you know a guy is like, all right, he's going to get taken care of pretty well. I mean, that just makes a lot of sense. Teams need proven run stuffers. Based on how this market looks, I'm fairly confident that teams will have no problem spending to get a proven run stuffer like Williams is. Seems like his destination is kind of sorting itself out a little bit. Carl Reed Jr. reported for 24/7 Sports that Oklahoma and Texas are the early leaders, which would make a ton of sense with those guys transitioning to the SEC, wanting to get bigger and tougher up front. We talk about that potentially being the biggest hurdle for Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC, making that jump. This isn't a no context situation like the one that we talked about with Caden Proctor, who again made news for entering the portal, but it was just so that he could go back to Alabama. When that announcement came a couple months ago, it was, oh, this is going to be a return to Alabama, and he's just not going to stay at Iowa, but you can't enter the portal in their, post freshman year. You have to wait for this window to actually open up. I just thought it was funny that Lane retweeted it, and that Lane is all about every bit of Alabama drama and wants to make sure that it's seen by as many people as humanly possible.
Hey, you talked about paranoid college football coaches. Let me show you one that's not. That's Lane Kiffin retweeting sorority girls playing with his dog on Twitter. I'm glad I switched sides on that because that guy is legitimately hilarious.
Living his best life. Lane in so many different ways, like the way that he has played this out. And look, I don't know how active Ole Miss is going to want to be in the post-spring window. I don't think that's particularly the way that he's designed things, but
what needs do they have? Like this, they already got the best of everything out of the portal. It's like, we need to do water boy. We need a concession staff. Like what's still on their list?
It's a good question. I mean, I feel like they'll always be looking to add those front seven guys just because you kind of can't have too many of them. So who knows? Yeah. Maybe they'll be in the sweepstakes for a Dominic Williams or something like that. Despite the fact that
they already got Walter Nolan and Princely You, our boy, who are the two of the top three D-line guys that were ever available. So yeah, if they get a third guy or a different guy in there, goodness, man.
Plus lad of the year, JJ Pegues is still there. Jared Ivey was really good transferring from Georgia Tech. He's still there as well. But again, they just keep trying to add these front seven guys. That's been their MO so far. Speaking of drama, Will, can we talk about this Colorado stuff?
Which part of it, man? There's so much of their drama going on.
There's a lot of layers here. Look, if you miss this, if you don't live on the internet like we have to do for this, it's not every day that you see a coach's son at a Core 4 program who decide to put the word out on Instagram of, hey, defensive transfers, DM me, offensive transfers, DM my brother. Interesting strategy, to say the least. My guy Lance Taylor at the next round called it Bush League. And
hold on. Best part of that though was in parentheses. This ain't no last chance you.
oh
Well,
yeah,
it's
good point.
certainly not first chance you. Let me start there. It's much closer to last chance you than first chance you. So let's at least get that on the board. All right.
If you have to tell me it's not last chance you, it might be last chance you a little bit.
Second to last chance you. Penultimate chance you.
It's a chance for you.
It's a chance for you, brother. Slide in these DMs. It's like one of those promo posts where it's like DM for promo, DM for roster. Scully.
Look, I don't think it's Bush League like Lance Taylor called it. He did say that Vandy is going to win more games than Colorado next year, which, Will, if you pull up that Colorado schedule and you look at it, North Dakota State, and then besides that, you're kind of going, oh boy.
Are we sure about North Dakota State? I mean,
Yeah.
they've beaten some teams.
That's true. Beat Iowa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just saying. Carson Wentz, Easton Stick. They're not walking through that door. Maybe they are. Trey Lance. I don't think
he
they're
barely
walking
walked through the door at all. So
sad. That career kind of bums me out, even though I wasn't a Trey Lance guy. It just kind of bums me out. But yeah, you got to look at their schedule, and that's might be the only winnable game that they have. So I was kind of like listening to Lance talk about this, and then by the end of it, he kind of talked me into it. I'm like, I might agree with you that Vandy could win more games than Colorado next year. I won't necessarily say that it's the most egregious thing ever, but I think it's a thirsty move for a program that made it seem like it didn't need to be thirsty. That's the discrepancy. What did Quavo tell those Georgia players right after NIL started in 2021?
That's a pop quiz I don't know the answer to.
Don't be thirsty. That's what he said. Quavo knows best. That's what I always say constantly.
Yep. Facts. And back out to they do anything for clout. That wasn't Quavo, but it was one of the Migos. Anyway, so point being, Bud Elliott had a good quote on that. It was like, last year's Louis is flooding this year's market.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah. Look, when you're the program that brags about all this incoming talent, and again, bringing in Louis, as you call it when you're Deion Sanders, and then you win 4 games, which again is different in Colorado than most other places. I fully acknowledge that. But a lot of those same guys are now hitting the portal looking for a new home. Look, you're going to get criticized. You're going to be subject to a different sort of criticism than other programs where, like, it's not necessarily crazy to think about, if 2 people at LSU or Georgia or Florida State or Clemson, had a message like that on Instagram where it's like, like DM me if you're interested in coming to our school or whatever. We kind of take that all in stride because it's like, okay, yeah, you've won a lot of football games. Maybe you're looking to mix things up. We might even compliment them and say, hey, look, you're willing to do things a little bit differently. But Colorado is different context with the ability to acquire talent. Like, Deion's always going to be transfer heavy, right? His recruiting strategy lends itself to that. But there's just no world in which they're going to be as transfer reliant as they were in year 1 when they had 51 incoming transfers. That's crazy. You're not turning over a roster like that. At least you shouldn't be. And this year they've had 25. They've also had 28 leave. I mean, that is so significant. Well, they
can't have a negative transfer balance at, Colorado. I mean, if you're Georgia or maybe Clemson, you might be okay. But if you got me and Peyton playing offensive line for you, and you need some depth at least, you need some starters out of that portal. Let's be honest with the situation they got. If that dude was not the coach's son, he would not be back there. And it's going to be funny if I get turned into the hater clip here because you guys know I'm like a way bigger Deion fan than most people that are listening to this. But before that reason, because I start off my day with listening to him, the you didn't make me so you can't break me. Like, I love the way he talks. I love like some of his message, but this is not going according to plan. I think we could say it that way at least.
Especially if this is your window. And like if Shedeur and Travis Hunter are off to the NFL after this year.
He's running out of kids.
Oh my God. Like
that's LeVar Ball.
Oh boy. Not great. Not great. Like, they don't have a single returning starter on the offensive line. And you could say that that's a good thing, maybe. Like, addition by subtraction. I guess.
Pros and cons. Okay.
Maybe Deion just cut them all. That's been a popular topic of conversation in this post-spring window is coaches that are just cutting guys. you can still honor a kid's scholarship. I mean, Dion is the one who kind of reminded us of that, of like, you can give a kid an academic scholarship and cut him from the football team. Like, you're allowed to do these things,
I
which
guess, yeah.
sure. Look, I offered up my services to Colorado. I would gladly bulk up if it meant playing O-line for Colorado. I would do that. Within that context, though, it's thirsty to treat acquiring talent like you are trying to round up people for your March Madness pool. It just is. And that's the problem.
Who got the code? Who's got the dues? Who's picking up the dues? All right, somebody's got to drive the bus. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Let's get a group me going. Let's figure this out.
Yeah. What there are those apps like bachelorette party apps that you get. I still have one of those on my phone from a bachelor party like 3 years ago, where everybody just kind of, it's really easy for paying and stuff. It's not quite Venmo. It's a little bit different. I can't remember. There's a bunch of those out there. This felt a little bit like that, which not great, not ideal. And the thing is like, Colorado lost a lot of these guys before they even played their spring game too, which last year they had all these guys play in the spring game and then use it as an opportunity to play elsewhere. And they had all these guys that like cleaned house and like left after the spring game, and they like played well in front of, a good crowd and stuff like that. And so I don't know how it's going to play out this year. Look, Colorado is still going to get a bunch of guys in the portal. They're going to. There's no doubt about it. I saw a 24/7 Sports report that Tennessee leading tackler Elijah Herring, he's taking a visit to Colorado. Not sure that's as big of a loss for Tennessee as some might suggest. And I'm not just doing the thing where I say a guy that is out the door wasn't particularly good. Whereas I looked at someone like Justin Robinson leaving Mississippi State, and I thought, man, I think that guy was just better than what the numbers indicated after Mississippi State had a horrible passing attack last year. Also, the fact that I was there for maybe the best game of his career when he won TaxSlayer MVP honors. That's definitely shaping my opinion of Justin Robinson, the former Georgia player as well. But basically what I'm saying is there are limited opportunities for Colorado, it feels like, to be able to get this massive influx of talent. It feels like the meat of these early headlines are not necessarily move the needle, game-changing type moves. And I'm admitting that if you look on our YouTube, on Saturday Down South YouTube, you can see the thumbnail, the most recent thumbnail of why the spring portal will be chaos. Little picture of Hugh Freeze. Maybe not the best picture of Hugh Freeze. I didn't do that to slight him. He just looked a little bit disheveled. Sometimes you got to get creative with these thumbnails a little bit here. I didn't do that intentionally. I'm not trying to do wrong by Hugh Freeze or anything like that. But you can see it. It's there. And so I wouldn't say that I'm in full cold take territory just yet, Will. But I don't feel great about that prediction based on the way that things have played out so far.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely fair. And I will say that, like, we want to give credit as it comes. Like, Colorado does have 3 of these D-line transfers coming in, right? I'm not going to go through all their names. You guys can look. But yeah, there's one, Quincy Wiggins from LSU, actually. So of course, I'm not, Mr. Booty Hurt LSU fan. I'm laughing at LSU needing to get front 7 guys.
I'm sorry. Did you say booty hurt?
Yeah,
Okay.
Butt hurt. It sounds mad coming out of your mouth. It's like butt hurt. Like booty hurt's a little bit more. I don't know. You know what? Actually, I go back to butt hurt. It sounds worse. All right, back to it. I'm just imploding my case here. So point being, they got 3 of these dudes. So as I'm looking at LSU's needs in the front 7, they're losing 2 guys that are higher than any of the guys they could get. They're losing Jackson Howard, who left yesterday, and Quincy Wiggins already committed to Colorado. So actually, okay, compliment sandwich here. 3 new guys coming in. Can't really be worse than the front 7 you had last year. So actually, your D-line is probably going to get better. And your line, like we said, by a certain team around 2021, can't get worse. Don't bring the losers back. They got the tackle that committed, decommitted, recommitted, decommitted, whatever. I think he's still going to be there. Hopefully, we'll see. But they got that 5-star tackle they were on FaceTime with during the National Signing Day. So point being, hopefully, just for football, man, like Dion getting embarrassed is funny, but I think overall it'd be good to kind of have a little bit more back and forth. So yeah, that's all I was going to say there, is just that there are some guys they're getting. They're like 5th or 6th, depending on where you look overall right now. Now they're losing lots of guys there.
There are people that are just going to want to continue to dunk on Colorado at every turn, which I get. I get it. Like Dion rubs you the wrong way. Again, nobody's really changed their opinion on Dion in the last 30 years. And that's what we don't really talk about as much. It's like, you kind of feel the way that you do, and you probably have felt that way if you remember him even being on the Braves, and which side did you take with the Tim McCarver thing? Like, it's kind of crazy that that's to have an opinion that established about someone that dates back that long in this day and age. But yeah, Deion's sons didn't exactly make things easier on him. And I don't know what that communication's like. You know, I don't know if Deion is saying, hey, kids, why don't you hop on the old Instagram machine? No, Deion knows more about social media than that, obviously. But I don't know like what that communication's like. If that's two kids saying, hey, we're kind of looking around right now in spring practice. We need more talent. Dad, do you mind if I do something like this? Sure, fire away. That's I guarantee you they got flooded with DMs. Like, there's no doubt about it whatsoever. And it's accepting a little bit of, oh man, maybe we don't have Louis in the door. Maybe we don't. And there's a certain bit of humbleness that I think that people that are criticizing them aren't actually acknowledging, that they're kind of admitting by doing something like that.
Got that last chance Louis.
Last chance Louis.
Which one is it, buddy?
But that was the worst part, Will. If they had just not, you're right. You were correct to bring that up. If you have to tell me it's not last chance you, it makes me think suspect. More and more.
If I wasn't thinking it before, I certainly am now. But yeah, not to make this whole thing a Deion thing. So let me ask you one question here. What is the SEC team you think that is the most impacted by this? And you talked about Mississippi State, not in terms of the portal overall, but just the spring window. I mean, is there a real difference maker that we see? Not Caden Proctor, but like, you know, somebody?
No, I mean, gosh, so far, the team that's been hit pretty hard, I think Arkansas has been hit pretty hard. But I also think from a depth standpoint, Arkansas is so laser focused on just getting through this year that I don't necessarily know that they're in position where they're going to fret. They're going to, you know, if I don't know that they're too deep is going to make or break their year. And so the numbers aren't necessarily in Arkansas's favor, but that's one that definitely stands out so far. I think Mississippi State has a lot of work to do. I think they would love to be super active in this post-spring window. To get a player like Damian Martinez on board would be massive, massive for them, because they're one of those teams right now that you look up and down, you're like, man, there are going to be some guys who have to pop and show that they are better than what we're giving them credit for at this juncture. So that one's a little bit tough, especially on the defensive side of the ball. As much as I like to think Jeff Lebby is going to be able to kind of right the ship offensively, it's still going to be an overhaul for what they were trying to do at this time last year. And then Kentucky hasn't been shy about wanting to pay skill players in the portal. Like, they have been that team as well. It feels, based on the way that their running back depth charts played out, they got a veteran backup from NC State, you know, as locked in as their starter right now. But, you know, they're a team that, look, is going to be a significant player. So, yeah, look, I don't know that there's one definitive answer. You heard Josh Pate talk the other day about how Auburn is relying so heavily on these freshmen. They would love to be able to get more veterans on board. There's no doubt about it, being in the market for receivers that can play immediately, not necessarily the projects. They got guys that, you know, a year or two from now, like, you feel pretty good about, of course, but getting those veteran guys in. So that's a pretty indirect, general way to answer that question.
Well, let's say it like this too, and just to kind of put a bow in this whole thing. The teams that quote unquote won this window, we are not going to know. And it's because the teams that really, really have a need, talking about, you know, Mississippi State, talking about, you know, really Arkansas is kind of an interesting spot because they obviously do not have a new head coach, and I'm not accusing them of that, but any of these teams in flux, right? They're going to take more swings on guys. LSU with the D-line. Like, they're going to bring a guy in. Now, is it, you know, the guy from Indiana, or, you know, is it Dominic Williams, like you were talking about? So it just kind of depends. And obviously, I don't even think they're linked to him as much, like, you know, taking visits and stuff, but it's not like as being reported. So point being, because we're kind of in this like recess draft situation and all the real good picks are off the board, it's like the teams that need this the most, either they're going to hit all duds and it's going to be a disaster, and we've seen that before, or there's going to be 2 or 3 of those diamond in the rough guys, but it's more of like a, you know, cry now, laugh later situation either way, because it's, you won't know, like that 3-star that turns into Jared Verse or the 2-star is not, you will not know that until you see him play in the SEC and be like, oh, everybody was wrong about this guy. Don't know why I didn't trust Mark Stoops. And also to the Mark Stoops point, maybe nobody was happier about the Calipari leaving than him, like we were talking about. I'm sure he was banging down Mitch Barhart's door, like, "Hey, you were getting the money together for that buyout. I know you got that money somewhere, son. Give me the stuff for these receivers."
Yeah, I think Kentucky has actually been better than what some would realize in that area. I mean, if
Yeah,
you look at their offense, the way that it's been built the last few years, it's been defense. We're going to build from within. We trust our development, and then offense. It's been a little bit more. Hey, let's be willing to spend in the portal. Let's go after some of these skill position guys. Even on the offensive line, they were going
yeah.
after a couple of different guys there. But yeah, look, I still think Bama's going to be a significant player. I still think that's going to happen, even though it hasn't necessarily happened just yet. But there's again, we're sitting here talking on April 18th. The portal opened on April 16th.
You know what? Wow, you just made a great point. I didn't even think about that. Was mentioning those teams. If there was one guy in the SEC that could find a 3-star and turn them into a 5-star, honestly, Kalen DeBoer's in that conversation, just based on what he did at Washington. Pay attention to the guy Bama's takes.
Yeah.
Because one thing that he could say, and we kind of talked about this a little bit with like Bo Davis, like turning the 3-stars and whatever. DeBoer's kind of had to do that. And they weren't his players, mind you. Like a lot of the starters were already on the roster. But
Yeah.
it's not like they were great recruits ahead of time. And so the guys that were impact that he brought in outside, I mean, it was all kind of like second to last chance you guys, right? Even Michael Penix Jr. was a second to last chance you guy. That if that didn't work out, I don't know what would happen to him. So point being, like, that's actually a great team to flag because people, Bama, there really aren't enough names on the board to really for anyone to be happy necessarily and say, oh, look at this guy. Da, da, da. But those 3-star guys, look at who they take because they have some good evaluators on that team.
Yeah, they've done significantly well in the portal so far in the early evaluation of it. Again, how's it going to translate here? How much does not having Ryan Grubb, impact the things that you're going to try and do on offense? TBD on that. Would expect Florida to be a significant player in the portal as well. I think they have certain positions of need. I think they would like to be able to continue to try and add more defensive depth. I know that they want to get receivers to play alongside of Trey Wilson, of course, who I think is going to be phenomenal, but you kind of question, if he's going to have to do too much of the heavy lifting in the passing game. So yeah, look, it feels like everybody has significant needs. I feel like we've named most teams. There aren't a whole lot of teams that you're sitting here going, yeah, you should just sit on your hands during the spring window. Even Georgia. Feels like, even Georgia though, like you watch, like Georgia's going to make a couple of these moves in the portal and you're going to be like, oh boy, they just got better at that spot. Or, oh yeah, that was kind of an area of weakness. Like if Georgia adds a corner or something like that, you wouldn't necessarily be stunned. But it's interesting.
Wait, hold on. Georgia, real quick. I mean, if you think, okay, we're Georgia fans, we got the process, mentality, championship built different. Look at how many of your pass catchers and your skill position guys, talk about ETN, how many of those guys are out of the portal? We all were dumping on, Alabama needs to get receivers out of the portal. We don't. Look at your receivers and look at your running back and look, because they're doing a great job. I'm giving them credit. To be clear, I'm not dumping on them. I'm just saying you evolved. So give yourself credit for that. Don't say we don't need it.
It's a good point. I had that realization watching the spring game because Dom Lovett transfer, Ra Thomas transfer, Colby Young transfer. They have they have another one that I'm blanking on right. London Humphreys from Vandy, another transfer.
Yeah.
Like 4 of their top 5 pass catchers, and then obviously Dylan Bell's going to be involved in Oscar Delp. Those guys are homegrown. But like 4 of their top 6 pass catchers probably going to be transfers.
Oh, yeah, when you factor in ETN, man, too, because that's what if you're using him correctly, you're getting him the ball a lot. So when we look at the end of this season, Georgia might have more receiving yards by transfers than any team in the SEC. If you
Which
is
interesting. Because they have, been one of the teams that's, I don't want to call Georgia reluctant to use the portal. They're not Clemson by any stretch of the imagination. But Kirby has been, pretty upfront about his policy with that, and they have still leaned a lot more on the high school recruiting. But yeah, teams have needs far and wide. It's just a matter of whether or not they're going to be able to address it with the market in the spring portal. All right, let's kick it to Hester. Wanted to be able to talk a little bit of Nuss, some LSU defense concerns, some running back things, a little draft, a little Heupel talk. Hester, he does it all. He's a man of many talents. So here's Jake. I'm now excited to be joined by a very special guest. It is the one and only Jacob Hester. Hester, let's start with, I'm tempted to start with your new office setup, which threw me for a loop a little bit here. You still got the jerseys up though, which is the ultimate flex that you can have. It truly is. It looks good for you guys are like doing a bunch of remodeling and stuff. I actually think it looks perfectly fine. The background looks great.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, we're just kind of getting started, and you can see like there's a ladder and there's like tools all over, behind me here, and it's a work in progress. So we had baby number 5 in June, and she was in the front room, and my office was just where I was doing off campus for 3 hours a day, and that's the only time I was spending in there. It's like, okay, we need to make this make sense. The office was in the back portion of the house. Again, we have 4 other children, 4 loud boys, and so at night it was like constantly like, hey, y'all be quiet. The baby's asleep up front. And so, yeah, we're like, hey, let's don't overthink this thing. Let's move dad. Let's kick him out of the office. Let's move him up to the front of the house. And so it's a little bit work in progress. I have the jerseys up. And of course, I have the flat screen TV up. That's the only things hanging in here so far. So we'll see if we can complete it by the time football season kicks off.
Hey, the fact that you have an entire wall of jerseys is, that's going to play anywhere. Defense travels, being able to hang your own jerseys, that travels in any office space whatsoever. So you're good there. Let's talk about your Bayou Bengals here. The LSU spring game. My biggest takeaway wasn't that LSU needs to work on its duck duck goose celebration, which it very much does.
Yeah, it does. It was a little rusty.
Yeah, it was rough. I watched that and I try not to be too glass half empty, but this new look, totally overhauled defensive staff, very much has its work cut out. How alarmed were you by some of the deja vu moments that we saw from that LSU defense on the back end?
Yeah, and so this is a conversation where I think the offense is going to be really good, but still that doesn't make up for having busted coverages and things like that. But it is a brand new staff, and even though Corey Raymond was at LSU for a long time, he's new to these players. Even though Blake Baker was at LSU not that long ago, he's new to I think everyone outside of Greg Penn, right at the linebacker position. Bo Davis, like he was an LSU coach when I was playing for LSU, but that's been a long time ago. Like he played at LSU just like Corey Raymond, but all of that was a long time ago. So even though they have strong LSU ties, they haven't been here with this current group of players. And so like you expect some of that. It's just for LSU fans, it's PTSD because you saw so much of that more than maybe any team in the country a year ago. Now, the staff before that, I don't really think had an excuse because that was year 2. Like you shouldn't have those issues. Communication issues should not happen. And it was a defense that was a top 40 defense the year before. It might have even been closer to 30 than it was 40. And it's like, wait a minute, what happened here? I mean, all the communication, whatever the chemistry was from that staff to the defensive personnel, it was completely gone. I've never really seen like a disconnect like that from a team that had, a solid defense. They made plays. They weren't the best in the country, but it wasn't something that you had to really worry about to maybe the worst of the teams that matter, right? The teams that matter, worst defense in the country. And so you had to do something, and you like it's like $10 million in salary. You're like, hey, we're not going to just replace the coordinator. We are cleaning house. We're starting over. We're hitting reset. And so when you do that, you're going to have some things like we saw last Saturday in the spring game. They just have to limit that from what it was a year ago. They don't have to be the 85 Bears. They don't have to be Georgia from 2021. They just need to be better. They just need to not be the worst. Like they can even be maybe even bad, Connor, and still be much better as a team. Like if you go from what are they like 103 in defense last year, even if you go to like 60, and that's not the standard at LSU, but if you go from 103 to 60, then that's going to win you maybe a game or two. And so that's what they have to work on. They've got to get from where they were last year. They've got to shore some things up because yeah, it is worrisome and troublesome. And when you see kind of the same thing that happened a year ago that cost you maybe a chance to make a college football playoff with the best offense in the country.
Flirt with mediocrity. That's the way I always like to put it. For
Yes.
teams, just do that. Just give me that. Give
Just
me
don't
these
suck.
moments. Don't try not to suck.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That's the old Cubs motto. When T-Bob came on before spring, we both kind of agreed that the secondary actually looked like it wouldn't be as much of a concern as last year because those guys, even as bad as they were, they still got reps. You should get a healthy Zay Alexander back. And you have a DC that actually speeds up quarterbacks with the way that he blitzes. So they should be put in better spots without having to defend for, 7, 8, 9 seconds out there. But I still believe all of those things. I just now look at that USC opener for an LSU program that hasn't won a season opening game since Joe Burrow was there. And
Yeah.
I think, oh God, Lincoln Riley, as my co-host Will Ogburn would always say, Lincoln Riley might have some other ideas for that LSU defense, and especially the way that spring game played out. Is that too much of an overreaction to already be looking ahead at that, going, "Oh boy, this group could be in for it early on"?
A couple of things. That game might be like the first one to 70 wins with some of the defensive performances we've seen from both of those
Yeah,
teams. And yeah, LSU's not been great in openers, right? And T-Bob and I have talked about it so many times on Off the Bench. It's like, man, I don't know where the disconnect is, because you get so much better as the season goes along, but that's 2 years in a row. And not even going back to Coach O in 2020, when you didn't adjust to Mike Leach running crossers over the middle of the field. You continue to try to play man against that and get picked off for an SEC record. Like, just not even going back that far, just going back to the last 2 years, it's been head scratching, because the first year, like, you didn't look ready out of the gates, and then once you got ready, it was too late. And then we all know how that game ended, with a blocked extra point. And then last year, you had so many opportunities in that game against Florida State early, and once you didn't capitalize, it's like, oh, you're not going to win this game. You had your chance, you had it early. I mean, like, your first offensive play, it's like, here we go, buckle up, and you didn't get touchdowns, right? You settled for field goals, and you never got back into that game. But right after that, you get back into the flow of things, and you became a good football team. But you can't start slow like that, not with this schedule. Like, I don't know what UCLA is going to be, but they've got Jimmy's and Joe's, and the last time that you played them, they big boyed you, right, in Pasadena. And so you can't start slow this year. And USC, I don't know what they're going to be defensively. It's kind of like LSU. I think they're going to be improved. I like that staff better than I like the staff that was there before. And so it's going to be a challenge, and it is going to be a game in which the offense makes a lot of plays. But for LSU to get where they want to get to, they've got to be better in these openers, and they got to go out there and really put their best foot forward, because you don't want to start behind the eight ball, knowing you still have UCLA on the schedule, knowing what you have in the SEC. You're picking up Oklahoma on your schedule, so this opener is going to be very important for Brian Kelly.
I think you see the way that Garrett Nussmeier played in the spring game, and that's obviously the positive. I don't think there's any question that Nuss is going to be the guy, even with AJ Swan on board, a guy who got significant reps at Vandy, was put in some tough spots there. But it's just about what it's going to look like week to week with Nuss. How do you believe that his first season as a starter is going to play out?
So he's like a unicorn, right? I mean, he's the guy that didn't transfer. He didn't leave. You never really heard anything from him. And every time he was asked to come into a game, he played well. But then he would just go back to his role. And again, he was quiet, would go out there, would work, would be the best teammate that he could be. So he is somebody that doesn't really exist in college football anymore. And you get excited about the flashes. Now, this will only be his second game ever to start. And that feels weird saying out loud, because like, he was there in 2021, and he was there with Max Johnson, and he's been there with TJ Finley. I mean, think how long that Garrett Nussmeier has been on this roster. And again, like, it feels like he started more games, but this will only be his second start. But you have seen, I think, enough of the flashes. And again, like, him going in there against that Georgia team in the SEC championship game, and you can say, well, that game was over. It was by the score, but remember, Kirby tried to score 50 in that game. He left his starters in. He wanted to make it a point. And I never blame anybody for something like that, but they were trying to win that game by as much as they possibly could. They had their starters in, and Garrett Nussmeier went up and down the field on that Georgia defense that nobody else had done that year. Like, those are things that get you excited as an LSU fan. You don't worry about the moment ever being too big for Garrett Nussmeier, which you would if it was a normal guy going into his second start in the SEC. I have never seen him ever be affected by anything. I remember, I guess it would have been 2021, and LSU is at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is putting it on LSU, and there was a chance that he could get in the game. Max Johnson wasn't playing great, and I mean, he is just begging. He's literally begging the offensive staff, just put me in. I promise. These are his words. He's like, I promise you I can make a difference. He's just wanting to be out there on the field, and that's the kind of mentality that he has. From a skill set, he's got all the things that you have to have. I think some of the gunslinger stuff that's good is still there. I think some of the stuff that's bad has actually gone away for the most part. Will he still, try to throw across his body, I'm sure, at some point over the middle of the field and throw an interception? Yes. But I think what you get from the good side of his gunslinger part, you want to keep, and you don't want to take away too much from that.
What's the comp? Who's the guy that he reminds you of?
It's kind of tough, just because, he's not 6'5". He's not this 6'5", 210 guy that can throw the football, push the football down the field. Gosh, I'm sitting here trying to think of a comp. I don't know. I don't really know because his body type, and then you see kind of the way that he throws the ball. Like the closest one that I can give you, like the first guy that popped into my brain was Baker Mayfield.
Hmm.
Because
Baker.
he's got a little Baker Mayfield. Now, I'm not saying that the arm is exactly the same, but I think he has more mobility than we're giving him credit for. I think Baker had that. I think Baker was more athletic than we gave him credit for. I think Garrett Nussmeier is that same guy. And there wasn't a throw that Garrett Nussmeier is scared to make, just like Baker Mayfield at Oklahoma. Like Baker was going to go out there and be Baker every single time. And so I see a little bit of that in Garrett Nussmeier. And maybe it's because, again, I'm letting the size play tricks on me, but that skill set compared to what Baker did at Oklahoma feels very similar.
We can put a pin in the comp. I do love comps. I think they're really interesting for quarterbacks, and especially one that, as you said, he's a unicorn. He's very unique in what he's trying to do. I think his approach is even somewhat unique. We'll see if that's tweaked. I thought we saw tweaks of his approach changing in the bowl game against Wisconsin, where I was like, wait a minute, this is a guy I've been calling a gunslinger for forever, and he's coming out and actually playing a pretty conservative game. You talk about the bad things that are kind of, maybe fading from his game as he matures. I think
Yeah.
at his best, you'd like to be able to, have a lot more of those games where he can just kind of manage it early on and then, get going late. What does a successful year 3 for Brian Kelly look like?
I think it's getting into the college football playoff. And I know it's lofty expectations, but Connor, you and I have talked about this. That should be the expectation every single year. At LSU, it should be. In the last 25 years, you've got the most championships outside of Alabama, right? You're the only other school outside of Alabama that has 3. Ohio State doesn't have that. Florida doesn't have that. Georgia doesn't even have that, right? I mean, great schools, great programs, and they're in good spots. Speaking of Georgia, obviously, but consistently, like you have been a team and you are a team that's won 3 national championships with 3 different head coaches. We talk about that in UConn basketball terms, like how impressive it was that they've done that. Well, she's done that in football. So the head coach matters without question. And BK is one of the best in the country, but also it's a program that if you do things the right way, like you can be highly successful. So I have no problem with the fans saying this should be the expectation. It's an expanded playoff. Year 3 is where you're graded the hardest. That's, Billy Napier conversation you and I had just yesterday. Like you're going to get graded off that year. And anytime these coaches are introduced, they always, say, let me get to year 3. Let me get my guys in here. And so year 3 is very important. Do you have deficiencies? You bet. But do you have a lot of talent coming back? The offensive line is the best in the country, in my opinion. If it's not, I will argue that with anybody. So it's in that conversation. And so you have some pieces that are playoff ready. Now, there's probably 2 or 3 other teams in the SEC that I feel like are right there with you, right? You're kind of similar teams, and how the schedule plays out and what you do in those tight games is going to matter. Who knows how many SEC teams we get in there? But LSU, I feel like, is going to be one of those teams that has the opportunity. I'm not talking about getting the 1 seed or the 2 seed. They're probably closer to 10, 11, 12, but they do have that opportunity, and that should be the expectation because you've kind of flirted with that a year ago. I mean, you're what, a spot away? Would you finish 13, 12, somewhere like that in the country? So you were close a year ago, and that should be the expectation for him this year.
In your totally unbiased opinion, as a former running back, fullback, back of all trades, really, I need your take on this tweet because it made me so mad, and I'm sure it'll fire you up even more. Josh Norris, who he covers the NFL, he pointed out the PFF stat that former Tennessee running back Jalen Wright had just 4 carries when facing 8+ in the box and just 5 total outside runs, which Josh Norris called Tennessee this a Mickey Mouse offense. I have a lot of thoughts on that, but what are your thoughts?
Um, I don't know his work, and so I'm not hating like on all of his work, but that tells me that somebody didn't watch a lot of film if he
He
calls that a
admitted
Mickey
that.
Mouse offense.
He
Okay.
admitted he doesn't
Okay.
watch college football in season and said it was a
Because
Mickey Mouse offense.
okay, let me tell you something. Everything is available in a Josh Heupel offense. They will run gap scheme as much as anybody. They'll run power. They'll run counter. Every run is up in that Tennessee offense. It might be out of 11 personnel, but they will run anything and everything. It's not just an inside zone team, right? It's not an outside zone team, which if you live in that world, that's fine. Like you can do that. You can beat 11. LSU was that last year. They had a quarterback that could pull it at any moment and go 80 yards. And so they were going to run inside zone. That's who they were. You barely saw any gap scheme from LSU. I think that changes this year, but that's who they were. That's not Tennessee. Tennessee will run everything. And like counter is going to be run in a Tennessee football game. So there's nothing Mickey Mouse about what Josh Heupel does in the run game.
How do you think your skill set would have translated to Heupel with all those inside runs like that?
Oh my gosh, I would have loved it. I would have loved it. I could run zone. Being able to read a defense was something I could do. Inside zone, obviously better than outside zone. But my God, I loved a power and a counter. I mean, that was what we lived by in Jimbo Fisher's offense when I was playing for him at LSU. And so, yeah, a little A gap to expand power. I could get behind that. And I mean, running it out of gun was actually one of my things that I preferred. It gave it more time to kind of open up and you to read your blocks. And so, yeah, I don't have any eligibility left, but if I did, I would like to see, what I could have done in an offense like that. We actually, I mean, in '07 though, shout out to Gary Croton. We kind of opened it up, certainly in LSU terms, in 2007 terms, and we did some of that. And it was actually, pretty successful. At that time, that was the biggest offensive numbers LSU football had ever had.
Different splits with the offensive linemen though than what Heupel's probably running. Like with how far
Yeah.
apart those guys are, I can't even like seeing you run through an offensive line like that. It just like I cannot actually picture it.
Our
It's
offensive
so
line
weird.
looked like they were on field goal protection. They were basically interlocked at the line of scrimmage.
It's like if you don't have 7 guys on the offensive line, what are we really doing here? What do you think about the Heupel offense as it relates to skill players in the NFL draft? Is it overblown, or is it justified the conversations about skill players? Because I remember, this time
Yeah.
last year we're talking about Hooker, we're talking about Tillman and Hyatt and these guys, and it just kind of feels like that continues to follow Josh Heupel.
I think when people say that, they don't watch the NFL game. Or if they say that in the NFL game, maybe they're not watching what these guys are doing in college. The NFL is copying what is going on college offenses. Now, it might look a little bit different, and maybe it's even out of different personnels, but the schemes are the same. And some of these things that we see Josh Heupel do, like we did some of those things with Peyton Manning in Denver, some of these two-man route combinations, it's the same thing. So I don't really understand what the disconnect is. I mean, you're seeing NFL plays on the college field. Yeah, it might the splits might be wider, right? And the receiver might line up a little bit wider in college than he normally would. Like small things like that, but as far as like what the scheme is and what the two-man route combination is, it's the same thing. And again, the NFL is getting closer to college than college is getting to the NFL. I mean, a part of me, it pains me to say, when I was playing in the NFL, like 21 personnel with a fullback and a tight end was still very much a thing. We were going to dot the I a ton, right? That we were going to do that. And every team, for the most part, when I got into the NFL, still did that. That was the, air quotes, pro style offense. And even if you didn't have a fullback in the game, you were in 12 personnel and there was going to be a tight end probably somewhere in the backfield. You were going to be under center. The NFL is not like that anymore. Like nobody really does that anymore. I mean, maybe Harbaugh tries to bring it to the Chargers because every free agent signing he's had has been like a Y tight end or a 230-pound running back. Maybe that's going to be what they do. But for the most part, the NFL offenses are doing the same exact thing. Maybe the alignment is just a little bit different.
Chargers are still going to draft Senate out of Kansas State. Like that guy just.
And I'll have a jersey. I'll buy the jersey. I mean, quit trying to make him a tight end. Okay. He was an all conference Big 12 fullback, not a tight end. Quit trying to steal all of our guys.
He is like I was looking at it this morning. Everywhere you look, he's getting that tight end moniker too. It's not like you see the fullback thing fading in a hurry. Everybody's saying, "Oh, look at his metrics compared to past tight ends." I'm like, I know somebody that's probably really upset with that. It doesn't like see that.
But tight ends don't want to block like that. They want to block in line on the line of scrimmage, which is great. That's what they do. When you get them off the line of scrimmage, I've never understood this because you're running like a zone extra where the fullback is reading it like he has the ball. And that's where he blocks. Like you can go all the way backside, you can stay front side, you find the gap and move the player out of the gap. That's what a zone extra is. And you're asking a tight end that's never played running back in his life to read it like a running back. A lot of fullbacks played at least high school running back. Some play college running back, and that guy's going to be able to read that much better. So, yeah, I just I never understood putting the tight end back there. And if you ever have my guy Randy McMichael on, Georgia legend, he will tell you as much. I could hear him groan from the sideline every time it was 12 personnel and Randy was in the backfield in San Diego. He's like, why is Hester not in here doing this? I am here to be on the line of scrimmage playing tight end.
It's such a different skill set, it feels like. It really does. And if you could do both, I mean, more power to you. He certainly
Yeah.
feels like he's gonna have
If you can do both, yeah, because I'm not putting my hand in the dirt next to a tackle and blocking
Sure.
James Harrison. That's not
Sure.
going to go well for us either. So I have my skill set just like they have their skill set. And again, they hate lining up in the backfield to have to block it.
Okay, so besides Senate, besides the sixth Hester child, Cody Schrader,
Yes.
is there a running back in this draft class that you find yourself banging the drum for? Because I was reading Field Yates's top 100 prospects, and it's so light on running backs. Like the first
Yeah.
running back I saw in there, I think was Trey Benson at 60, and then Jonathan Brooks from Texas, he was at 64, Marshawn Lloyd at 82, and then the aforementioned Jalen Wright at 98. It just feels like the running back class is like there are years in which it gets watered down or it feels watered down
Yeah.
because of the positional value, but this year it feels like those top end guys just aren't necessarily there.
And we know what the running back position is. I mean, we've laid it out so many times before, and there's going to be a star out of this running back class that probably gets drafted somewhere like in the fourth round. He ends up becoming a starter. And it's wild, Connor. All 32 teams still play with a running back, even though they act like that none of the teams actually use the position. I mean, look at Pacheco and what he meant to the Chiefs. And so there's going to be a guy, and I understand, not drafting one in the top 10 because that hasn't really worked out for a lot of guys outside of Christian McCaffrey. So I get that. But there's still going to be guys that you count on that get second contracts and all of that. So I don't know who that's going to be. I'll tell you my favorite back and kind of a sleeper pick in this draft is somebody that you and I know well from his days in the SEC, and that's Dylan Johnson from Washington.
Yeah.
He is somebody that last year ran for 1,200 yards, 5 yards a pop. He's the best pass protector in this draft from the running back position. I really don't even think it's close. And that plays, as you know, in the NFL, that gets you on the field probably quicker than anything. Also, because he played in Mike Leach's offense for a majority of his career. He has in his career, 36, 65, 48, and 24 catches. He has a season which he had 65 catches at the running back position. And if you want to, again, get on the field as quick as you can in the NFL, because look, there's a lot of guys out there that can play on first and second down. The NFL is not looking for that anymore. They're not looking for the 235-pound bruising running back that can only run power. They want you to be able to do it all. And Dylan Johnson, he's 225 pounds. He's a big back, but he can pass protect. He's a willing blocker. And with that many catches, you're not going to find anybody else with numbers really even close, certainly from the Power 5 level with that amount of catches. I mean, 65, that's crazy. I mean, even like 36 is freshman year. That's a big number for back. I think the LSU record before Clyde broke it, I think Joe Adai had 39 because I had 37 one year. I know Joe Adai had 39, and then Clyde had like 50 something. That was the record by a running back. I mean, Dylan breaks that 3 times. I mean, so I think he's going to be somebody that probably goes in the 4th or 5th round, and nobody's going to talk about him. Whenever the draft grades come out, whatever team selects him, he's probably not even going to be a part of the process, right, wrong, or indifferent. They're not even going to have maybe a mention of him. But I'm telling you, he is going to play for a while. He'll be a vested veteran in the NFL. He's got a role in the NFL. You don't just average, 5 yards every year outside of your freshman year. And the teams that he's playing is a very much improved Pac-12. We know what the SEC is, have the catches like that, be able to pass protect like he does, and not have a role in the NFL. So not the first back off the board. Hell, Connor, he might be the 15th back off the board, but he is going to play at least for 4 years in the NFL and make an impact.
Yeah, if I'm one of those pass heavy teams, I'm looking at a guy like that. Absolutely. He would fit in so perfectly for a team. Even, maybe your beloved Chargers, like a team like that wants to be able to go after a guy that you need to be able to protect Justin Herbert and do all those things would make a lot of sense. There's no way that we haven't done at least one draft story of yours in the past. I feel like we have at some point, but let's go back to that day, that weekend of you coming off the board at number 69. That was the year that they changed up the start time of day 2 of the draft. I went back and looked this up. So things got rolling at like 9 a.m. on day 2, and you were the 6th player off the board on day 2. So there's no way that you were hungover when you were drafted, right?
not before I was drafted, but after I was drafted, certainly. So my draft story is it started at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. We thought it started at 9 a.m. Central time. And we were in
Oh,
my hometown of Shreveport. We were having a draft party because I didn't really know where I was going to get drafted. There was a slight chance maybe I could get to the back end of the second round, but it was going to be between probably like the third and fourth round. And so we were going to have like a little get together, whatever. And we're setting up for the party. Like we got there about an hour early, and we got like helmets and different things and food or whatever. We're setting up, and it's just me, my wife, her family, my family. And then all of a sudden, like they turn on the TVs, and like, here we go, the third round is starting. We're like, oh man, we messed this up. Like we're an hour off here, and there's nobody here but us. And then it's like, okay, well, maybe you won't get selected, in the third round. You're looking at the teams and you're like, nah, I didn't even talk to that team really. And so like we're continuing to set up, and all of a sudden, like my teammate, Shevis Jackson, goes to the Falcons. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a Braves fan. I was kind of eye hustling the TV, like, man, that'd be kind of cool if I went to the Falcons. Like Chipper Jones, we would be boys, I mean, we'd be hanging out. I'd be going to Turner Field watching the Bravos, and then it ends up being my teammate. So I'm fired up. I'm like, absolutely, let's go, Shevis. That's gonna be great for you. And so we're continuing to set up. And then the very next pick, that was 68. So 69, I see it flash across the screen. The San Diego Chargers have traded for the 69th pick. And I'm like, I went to San Diego. I talked to them a lot. That would be a great, I mean, like one of my only visits that I went on. And I know they were interested at the time. And I just had this feeling, and then I just start tapping my father-in-law who was sitting next to me. Like I couldn't get words out, like to try to tell them, hey, this could be me. I'm just like hitting his leg, and he's probably, what the heck are you doing? And then before I even got the phone call, again, there's like 5, 6 people there because the party technically hadn't started yet. I see my name go across the screen before the phone actually rings, which
oh,
it's usually the complete opposite. I guess
yeah.
because they traded, and so maybe things move fast and got delayed or whatever. And so I see my name, course, I hear my mom and my wife and everybody kind of go crazy because there's like 70 TVs in this place. And so they all see it as well. And then I see the 619 on my phone, and I'm like fumbling it, trying to answer it. And so I actually saw my name before I got the phone call. The party wasn't even there yet. But the best part about it, because I did get drafted before the party technically started, we started the party immediately then. And so when everybody got to the party, we had already pregame, we were hydrated up. And so we had a great time. And it felt like Varsity Blues because, again, this is like 9 in the morning at the time. The local news is like, hey, can we do an interview outside? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, sure. And this is like about like 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So again, we've been hydrating for a while. And man, I walk outside of this because it was like a bar. So I walk outside, and it felt like Varsity Blues. I mean, the sun hits me right in the face. I'm looking, I'm like, where am I? What is going on? I have never seen the footage of that interview,
I need to find it.
and I don't even know if they aired it. It could have been awful, but we were deep in our cups whenever that interview took place, and so it lives out there somewhere, I think. Again, I've never seen it. I don't know if it aired, but it was a local news station on draft day, and I was having some fun because the pressure was already off.
Did you have one or two puka shell necklaces on?
Oh, that was post Puka Shell,
Oh yeah, because that's
because
'08, right? Yeah.
yeah, like
Okay.
I was married at the time, and Katie certainly would have shut the Puka Shells down at that point. But just know that they're always near and dear to my heart.
They're coming back, I hear. I'm just saying.
My youngest son plays travel baseball. A lot of Puka Shells out there on the diamond. I'm just saying. Hadn't seen the frosted tips yet. Maybe that's coming. Everything comes in waves. Maybe that's going to come afterwards. But I've seen the Puka Shells.
When Memphis is rocking puka shells and Hollister, I'm here for that. I'm
Yeah,
here for all that. That's incredible. You going off the board, by the way, 4 picks ahead of Jamal Charles is an unreal feat because that dude was nasty in college and he was nasty
yeah,
in the NFL. You probably motivated him actually to become the player that he
yeah.
became in college.
I,
Like
I say
Jacob
it
Hester
often.
came off the
Yeah.
board. Yeah, I would say
And
that to him.
look, he had like probably 9,000 more career yards than I had. But did he ever block a punt against me like I blocked one against him for a touchdown? No. So who's to say who won that draft pick?
Chargers get an A in that draft just by taking you, as far as I'm concerned. One last thing for you. Let's do a little draft prediction. Where does Jaden get picked? And please tell me the Bears go with Malik Neighbors at 9.
I don't know if Malik Neighbors is there at 9, then there's I guess, 7 other teams because the Bears have 2 picks there that don't know ball like they should know ball. Malik Neighbors is the best receiver in this draft. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is in this draft. He's a fantastic football player. He's going to play for a very, very long time and be very effective. Malik Neighbors is the best receiver in this draft. I have never seen somebody ever watching football have a plan like he has for when he catches the football. There is no waiting around. It is north and south, and he is making a guy miss. He's running over a guy. He's stiff arming someone. He is as explosive of a player that I've seen at the position. Man, I kind of get giddy talking about Malik Neighbors just watching that tape, and that is not LSU guy saying this. Trust me when I say that. That is just doing draft coverage for SiriusXM, doing the homework, getting ready to go to Detroit next week. He is the best receiver in this draft. So if he falls to you at 9, you pull your hamstring running that card out there to be able to select a Malik Neighbors. But as far as Jaden Daniels, I would be surprised if he doesn't go to. I think the Commanders are going to be right there. They're going to have every opportunity to select him. I think, look, Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams. I understand the Bears taking him at number 1, but I think the Commanders take Jaden at 2. Where would I want him to go? I'd want him to go to the Minnesota Vikings. I think that's the best case scenario. I think the Bears and the Vikings have really good setups for whichever quarterback they select. And they got veteran players, they got playmakers. Their offensive line is not, bad enough where it's going to be an issue. And so I hope he goes to the Vikings, but probably going to go to the Commanders.
God, you got me fired up. I'm gonna go watch some more Malik Neighbors highlights. This entire season was a highlight. Really, the last season and a half was kind of just a highlight reel for him. But
hey, the Cardinals can take Marvin Harrison Jr. I think that's a great pick. And then at 5, I think the Chargers need to select Malik Neighbors. That just makes all the sense. I said forget what I said about him being the best receiver in this class. It's Marvin Harrison Cardinals. You need to select him at 4.
LSU guy rocking a Chargers sweatshirt wants Malik Neighbors to go to 5 at to the Chargers. I'm stunned. Can't believe it.
Nope. Yeah, shocker. No bias here.
Jake, you're the best. Safe travels up to Detroit. We'll do this again soon, man.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate you.
All right, Will. Pitch me SEC mascots. In our SEC Stadiums edition, if you did not listen to the first Pitch Me segment, we settled on Jordan-Hare for Will and then Death Valley for me. And again, this is a reminder. We put our biases at the door. That's what we're here to do. Our biases are very well known here. I think anybody that listens to this podcast regularly, and if you're listening to this podcast in mid to late April, I would assume you are a very regular listener of this show. Appreciate you. But the bias that you have is Mike the Tiger. You cannot pick Mike the Tiger for your SEC mascot. And I obviously cannot pick Uga, who I believe is the best mascot, not just in the SEC, not just in college football, but in all of sports. Give me Uga all day. Mm-hmm. And nobody can pick that dumb steer Bevo. We will not do that.
Yeah. We're starting to see more Texas and Oklahoma fans creep onto the page. We saw a little bit of a whimper of the Sooner, the horse. Get out there. We're going to be crazy no matter what. So you might as well just dive in head first. If you guys think Oklahoma is the best mascot, get out there. Because, I think it's better to just cold plunge it with the SEC and just fight with all the sickos in the offseason. Because when week 1 hits, buddy, you got to be ready. Okay?
Yeah, look, I think that's very healthy. Get into the debates now. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there is anything that anyone can convince me about that dumb steer Bevo. I just don't. If anything, I think I'm going to be more hostile towards him, especially if he once again charges at a beloved hero. If he rolls out that A&M poop bucket again, what's way more offensive than horns down? Specifically identifying an institution to put your poop into. Okay, I'm just saying. Yeah, you can't give me the horns down as offensive, and then poop into an A&M bucket. I just
Yeah, correct. No, I fully agree. It's going to be very funny watching everyone kind of catch up to this. But yeah, welcome to the SEC, guys. You're officially here.
Yes, officially here. Texas and Oklahoma are very much part of this conversation. Probably should have had more Texas and Oklahoma representation in our stadium edition that we did. If you have a pitch and if you feel like your team isn't represented, that's on you. We want everyone to be able to pitch us. And the goal of this is not for us to just, do our own research and then come up with, hey, what do we think is the best based on our own research? We want to be legitimately pitched. It's very tough for me to say that sentence without cursing, but we want to be pitched as best as we possibly can be pitched. I realized, let's do a couple of things are worth noting for the SEC mascot here, because I think we're going to have some questions and some people that are wondering what's included, what's not. Did you know, Will, that the title of best mascot is one that can be obtained in true competition? Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that. Yes.
Okay, well, that makes one of us, because I did not know that until last week. I saw that Mizzou's mascot, Truman the Tiger, he won Mascot of the Year at the NCAA College Nationals cheerleading competition. He's won that award 2004, 2014, 2024. Not sure if they're just on some sort of rotation there where he's got to win it every 10 years. Don't know how that goes. I even asked our resident Mizzou expert, Adam Spencer, on this because he pitched me on why Truman was the best compared to the other Tiger mascots. And he said, quote, he just tigers harder than all the other tigers, I guess. Okay. Tigering is a verb. So that's a pitch that's going to be taken into consideration here.
I do want to say really quick, wait till you find out where that competition happens, because Buddy is at the Wide World of Sports. So if you want to attend that competition, you can start doing that. You could get a credential if you want to.
Could I take it a step further and be a judge? What does one have to do to judge a mascot competition?
Probably know it exists for more than a week. I think that would be a good start. I think send an email, though. I mean, again, I see now that you know this exists, I feel like you'd be great at this.
Look, if I can get on these airwaves and complain about the Heisman process and then be able to kind of parlay that into being able to get a Heisman vote, I can get a vote on the best mascot in college sports. I want to be part of the solution, not be part of the problem with that as well.
You're just shoving Bevo in a dumpster behind the competition. Get out of here.
Bevo shows up. I just get up there with a megaphone. And next.
It's like the chicken from Family Guy. You're just getting Bevo out of the stadium. You're like, get out of here, you loser. I don't want you anyway.
Nobody wants you. You know how like when you're doing jury duty, you have to tell them like all your biases, your prejudices beforehand. And they just get to me at that point of the weeding out process for judges. They're just like, do you have any sort of like, preconceived notions about specific mascots? I'm like, I think that dumpster Bevo is the worst. But other than that, like, I got an open mind. Impressed
steak. Anti-Bevo. Don't put me around him.
Very much. But so people are going to want to know, like, hey, live mascot versus, costume, whatever. I didn't realize that if we want to talk about, someone in a costume, that Aubie has won that title 11 times. And
he's generational.
Won that title in February? How can you win that title in February, but then have it again available in April? I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to get more information. I need to figure things out.
The split national title. They need to bring in a true playoff committee to get this sorted out.
They couldn't even settle on a tiger? I don't know. I can't figure these things out. But Auburn's mascot is officially Aubie and not Area, which is the Golden Eagle. Okay? I think Area would have a strong case in my book to be eligible after, overcoming a wing injury, being able to fly as War Eagle 8. That thing is majestic, absolutely majestic. I love an eagle or really any bird with a significant wingspan. Big hawk guy. When a hawk flies on my fence in my backyard, it's, hey, gather around. We're going to look at this hawk until that hawk flies away type stuff.
That's the most dudes being dudes thing ever. It's like, there's a cool animal outside. Everybody get up. We got stuff to do.
Dude, Lauren can identify any bird that we see on a walk. It's unbelievable. Just picks it out of the sky and can tell you exactly what it is, because every time she sees a bird, she looks it up on her phone, what it is. And then she always just knows and she processes that. You talk about brain space reserved for like useful things, that she has a lot of brain space reserved for that, but her brain's way bigger than mine.
Anyways. I need you guys to go on Family Feud. You guys would be generational in Family Feud. Anyway.
I don't know. We do Jeopardy, and let's just say one of us is answering a significant amount of questions compared to the other. I think at one point while watching Jeopardy, the only thing I said during a half-hour stretch was Harambe. So yeah.
But the important stuff you got covered.
Or my bad. What is Harambe? Of course.
Wow, for one, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so mascots. Let's get to some of these pitches. I'm keeping an open mind as much as possible. I'd like to think that we are both keeping an open mind. Let's start with the Saturday Down South podcast Facebook group. We have, okay, so speaking of Aubie winning all of these national championships at this contest that I will one day be a judge in, William Flournoy, our guy William says, 11-time national champion, and it's just a picture of Aubie, arms raised. Again, we need the criteria. I need to know what goes into this 11-time national championship. If you're not even the best mascot at your own school or the best attraction animal-wise,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We gotta keep it to I think human mascots, because not every school has a live mascot, so that's like kind of unfair, you know?
True. I think, can we keep them just all into consideration? Can they all
Sure.
be a part of it? I think that's like, if you look up SEC mascots, it has both of them. Like it has both the human and
True.
non-human, live, non-live, whatever the case may be. Do we consider Mike the Tiger a true live mascot?
He's alive. I mean,
He's alive, but he's not in stadium. You know?
Oh, I mean, yeah, because it's a PETA violation, like they used to, and then they were like, "This is kind of messed up." Like,
yeah, this is not going to be the segment for Pito, by the way.
Yeah.
Because while I do think that there is a certain bit of live mascot that can be downright depressing, I think there are a lot that are a joy and they get to live like kings and queens. And I don't think anything necessarily wrong with that. So
you have a cat. You know how they like to just kind of play with stuff? That's what makes him different from like a beaver, is that you can't just have him out there because he'll be like, "Oh, cheerleader."
True.
And you can't cage him up because he's too big. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This one is about Mike the Tiger. This is from Eric Netterville. Eric says, because our live tiger mascot, Mike, is one beautiful and playful giant kitty, and a nice picture of Mike. It's kind of surreal that you can just go up and see that. Like, LSU deserves credit for having that element as part of the allure, that you can just go up there and see him. It's not like he just randomly shows up, very periodically or something like that. It's like, oh, you want to go see Mike the Tiger? Yeah, we can.
Yeah, did that the other day.
Yeah. Who among us wouldn't do that walking LSU's campus? I mean, that I think is worthy of at least something. It has to, right?
Yeah, I think that's the cool thing about he's always accessible. You know what I'm saying? So he gets taken such good care of, and that's the other thing I was reading the other day. Like, all of Mike the Tigers, except for like one, have lived super long lives, like into the 20s. Like they've all been really taken care of. You go to his habitat, they're always taking cute pictures of him. You cannot book a live viewing of him. I tried. You literally, you cannot throw any amount of money. Well, maybe not any amount of money. Maybe you'd take 10 mil. Maybe you could pet him. But I mean, any civilian amount of money, they'd be like, "Hey, can I please go pet Mike the Tiger?" Who among us hasn't thought that? Well, at the bar with your buddies at one time, can I go pet Mike the Tiger? No. So it's really cool. You get to see a wild animal just living like a king.
If there was ever a setting in which that could go horribly, horribly wrong, it's on the campus of LSU. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but it hasn't gone horribly, horribly wrong.
It's a really good point. As much as was made of him kind of be wheeled in the stadium, like I was saying, like, tigers live long lives, and as I know, 0 tiger attacks. So give them Asian people credit. They at least know that's a danger kitty.
This is true. All right, Michael Dark gives us the UGA pitch. The UGA pitch is a good one. UGA as the best mascot in the SEC. He's been on the cover of Sports Illustrated. He starred in the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Universally loved across the country. Everyone sided with UGA and his beef with, pun intended, that heifer from Austin. Correct. Different wording, but we know what you're saying. He loves naps. Very relatable. He wants to bite rival players. Shout out to Robert Baker. Loves to take pictures with the kids. He's kind of my neighbor, lives in Savannah. This is confirmed. He's a good boy. Yes, he is. I'm biased. I feel like I have to refrain. I think that the amount of UGA impersonators is also pretty remarkable. Like the quarterback commit that Georgia just got. He's like committing with a bulldog that he's holding on to. And at the Georgia parade, that was when I first learned of the amount of imitation UGAs that are out there. And because every single one I saw, I thought to myself, oh my God, is that actually Uga? And then I realized, no, Uga's not just out here, mingling with civilians in an uncontrolled setting like this. Uga is above that. I am above. I shouldn't say above. I should excuse myself from further Uga conversation because of my love for just a magnificent creature.
I think this is a great example of what a pitch me should be because we're learning stuff, right?
Yes.
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Look this up. Put Uga, like UGA, after it. These are some of the cutest pictures I've ever seen. It's just like Uga being treated like a star on a movie set. There's like cameras in his face. He's blipping. He looks very cute. I think that's the thing about Uga is that he is, a perfect mascot outside of, devil's advocate, kind of some of the health issues that bulldogs have, but he is small. He is portable. He has a nice little house. His jersey is incredibly cute. He also is featured in like my favorite UGA logo, the one of just like stand up Uga, where he has his little jersey on. So yeah, I think he's a very perfect, branding. You want to be able to see it, right? Like you want to be able to say, we are Georgia. We are the Bulldogs. Here we are. With Uga, you got Harry Dog, which is a live mascot. I don't think anyone's going to make that case. What we're talking about is Uga, the true OG. White Bulldog, looks majestic, fits the part. He's pettable, he's cozy, he's fun. But he also, bit the mess out of an Auburn player. And I think we really got to say that was the greatest moment in SEC mascot history.
It might be the greatest moment just in mascot history.
Yep.
Which fan base would ever look at the way that played out and go, that's an embarrassing look? No. That's the whole point. I don't want to say that's the entire point of a live mascot. I shouldn't go that far.
I will say that's why we can't have Mike the Tiger on the field.
That is literally why Mike the Tiger cannot be on the field.
George Pickens taunting Mike the Tiger. Uh-oh. There we go.
It is why Tony the Land Shark cannot be an actual shark that is sitting there in a live aquarium for Ole Miss. We cannot have that. Frowned upon this would be. Uga might have ruined some things for certain animals, but nonetheless, if you don't think that Uga lives a great life, go read that LA Times story from Uga's experience at the Rose Bowl a few years ago. Oh my goodness. That is a king through and through. Obviously, Uga was going to be part of this conversation. Jonathan Mason, we have a case for Smokey. Okay, Smokey by far. He doesn't need a mansion or a penthouse. Ooh, shots fired.
Okay.
He's usually caught chilling on Frat Row. Smokey
the Lane Kiffin of mascots.
Some would say, very much. Smokey made his debut in 1953, 3 years earlier than that mutt to our south in 1956. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. And if that isn't enough, we've got Davy Crockett, the beloved rifleman from East Tennessee that truly embodied what it meant to be a Tennessee volunteer. If it weren't for the brave men that fought and died at the Alamo and those that came after, Tejas and Tejas A&M would likely be known for their powerhouse soccer programs instead of tradition-rich football pedigrees they have today. We've got a picture. There's a lot to digest in that pitch.
This started off so strong, but I think he heard his case there. Because, you got to pick one. Because, gosh, I feel the one-star reviews rolling in as I say this. The Tennessee, the Davy Crockett-esque mascot just reminds me a little bit too much of the West Virginia guy. And
I agree. I was going to say the same thing. Yep.
But that's they're Mountaineers, okay? You guys, volunteers, I understand, but you need to pick a horse and run with it. We talked about that with like Brock Bowers, not getting a Heisman invite. You need to pick a guy and run with it. So Smokey's your guy, okay? So stay there. That's my advice for you. I think Smokey's very cute. I think he's underrated. Objectively, I'd put him probably third dog mascot in the SEC. I think Reveille is very beautiful. I love Reveille. She is slept on, or he, just depending on whatever. But yeah, I think Reveille is super cute. So, but I think there's something to. I think it's a blue tick hound. There's something to that. It's cultural. I like it.
What's tough for Smokey, and it's not Smokey's fault at all.
Mm-hmm.
No blame his way. But during this rough stretch of Tennessee football that preceded the Josh Heupel era, there were some very tough still shots of Smokey in the middle of these games. And look, you could say the same probably about Uga during some of those teams in the 90s where you'd look at him and a Georgia team getting just bludgeoned that's showing a Bulldog mascot on the sideline probably was a tough look as well. So recency bias might hurt Smokey in this case. But there were some tough moments where you'd look and it just looked like Smokey was just downtrodden, not wanting to be anywhere, not wanting to be in that stadium, and understandably so. I mean, that was probably the Tennessee fan base as well during a lot of those games. And I think Reveille's default is naturally a little bit more upbeat than Smokey's is. I'm not saying that every mascot has to be sitting there smiling, whether it's good or bad. Maybe you do want your mascot to embrace whatever is happening on the field, and that should be a credit to Smokey and not a knock against Smokey. But I do think Reveille's default, even during those tough moments when Kevin Sumlin was somehow blowing something in November and A&M fans went from sky high to the lowest of lows within a matter of weeks, I think Reveille still kind of smiled through all of it. And so I think maybe that's more of like a testament to what a majestic creature Reveille is.
Yeah, I think Smokey, the credit I'll give is that it's a dog of the people. It's a dog with a job. It's a dog that has work to do. Reveille is a little bit more of a mascot, kind of like I could see Reveille doing a little paw, like debutante wave a little bit more. But I could really see, being a game of fetch with Smokey feels electric. Let me say it like that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good case, though. I agree with you that it should have been edited. Just stick with the Smokey part.
They were out of a gun to start that one. I was ready to listen, but then they kind of delineated. Where you said, you gave me some stats, you dumped on Uga. That's what I'll give you as feedback, is keep it together.
Sometimes in Shark Tank, they say, you came out great, and then you just talk too much.
Yep.
Talked your way out of an offer. That might have been a case where you might have talked yourself out of an offer. Even as a pro Uga person, I was on board with the first part of that for the creativity of it. Okay, let's go to our responses from the Saturday Down South Instagram. This one is from Brandon_Savona2000. Brandon says, Albert and Alberta for 3 reasons. I like this. An alligator is an intimidating reptile. It's unique because no one else in the SEC has an alligator for a mascot. I don't think anyone in the country has an alligator for a mascot, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. An alligator is native to Florida, and it's a state reptile. This is a really cool point because you can come to Gainesville and see alligators. You don't see tigers in Auburn. Alabama, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but you can come to Gainesville, Florida, and actually see alligators, which is cool because it's U.S. mascot. I think we repeated ourselves a little bit there. It's 100% right. How many of these mascots do not embody the area at all? A lot.
Yeah.
I mean, tons.
Mm-hmm. I mean, did you know that there have not been Wolverines in Michigan, like, ever?
Ever?
Like, they had not spotted one for, like, 100 years.
That does surprise me.
So that's actually an insane example. But, yeah, okay, devil's advocate. You're right about there's not tigers roaming around Lake Pontchartrain. Good point.
When was the last time a Spartan was in the state of Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time an Illini was in Illinois? I don't know.
Well, that one feels like
a little problematic. Yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you see the expert on Illinois.
Well, yeah, we don't need to dig in that. I think it's 100% right. I think Albert and Alberta should absolutely be considered for this. Now, you obviously couldn't have a live mascot of this. I'd like to see it once.
I disagree. I think they could have an enclosure.
Where would be the best place for this?
Okay, one mascot that didn't get brought up, and I'm extremely disappointed in this fan base, is Arkansas with Tusk.
Yep.
Tusk is an insanely large mascot. Like, I think it's the biggest in the SEC. And look, the Feral Hogs tweet, that guy was right, okay? If that thing and a tiger got into a fight, it would be a really good fight with the armor on Tusk really helping you. So if you can get Tusk bebopping around the baseball games, you could probably get it. I've seen alligators in my house.
Is there a more underused mascot than Hog?
Oh, man, yeah. That's like I said, Arkansas fans, you need to call a timeout because this was yours for the taking.
Yeah, I think Arkansas could have had it right there. The pitch would have been really, really good.
But let me say this about Gators really quick. There's, and they alluded to this. Albert's a king, okay? Yeah. Albert's got everything he needs, everything he wants. He's got a baddie with him. He's got Alberta, right? He's like the Jordan Poole of mascots. He's always showing out for the baddies. Sure. You know what I'm saying? He has the iconic Gator chomp he can do. It embodies the stadium. The colors, I've always loved UF's colors. I think he looks really cool. His fits are always really sick. So I think Albert/Alberta, great S tier mascot. Like you said, there's only kind of one. And if you hear like if a new university came out or that you just hadn't heard of, like they might have been around for the Gators, you immediately go Florida, and it's a really big deal for branding. I love that.
If you were colorblind, I don't think you could tell Aubie and Truman apart.
Yeah,
I don't think you could. I think they look really, really similar.
yeah,
And maybe that's why the NCAA cheerleading competition just takes turns being able to give them national championships. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I'll find that out. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Aubie, we got another Aubie pitch here. This is from Epiphany 4H. Mm-hmm. It's Aubie, and it's not even close. If Buddy was bright orange, he would fit in with the students. Always swagged out, dance moves on 100, and some of the trolliest signs and skits I've seen. Oh, and 11-time national champion. They really like to bring up the 11-time national champion thing. Yeah. How much do we care about dancing for mascots?
I think if it's an X factor, like if you're the BYU mascot, for instance, I think it's a big deal.
I think the BYU mascot is much.
He's horrifying. If you really look that guy in the eyeballs, I feel like he can see your soul. It's like the Penn State mascot's so bad it's good. The BYU mascot looks like he's about to pitch you something.
Yeah, little too athletic.
Yeah, in the pros, we're trying to have fun.
Yeah, I get it. I think mascots who are very good at dancing make me feel like, all right, well, which are you? Like you could be able to pump up a crowd without necessarily being exceptional at choreographed dancing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you got to be out there with a costume as frumpy as, say, Cocky of South Carolina.
Yeah.
That costume's too frumpy for my billing.
Okay.
But also, if all you're doing, like Mr. Commodore, is just throwing on not a mask. Why am I blanking on what you would throw on your head?
Headgear, helmet.
Yeah.
They just call it headgear on College Game Day, so I don't really think there is a name for what that is.
Sure. If you're just doing that,
yeah.
I mean, just get Lee Corso out there.
Yeah.
Let's just do that. So, look, I think that there's definitely room for interpretation, but the Aubie pitch, okay, I get it. 11-time national champ. That's clearly where this is, a lot of the basis of it. But let's end with this one from Krista Kissinger, who is a Mike the Tiger supporter. Mike the Tiger is majestic. He's beautiful, ferocious, and king of the bayou. When you visit his habitat, he takes your breath away. Also, when LSU allowed him to be on the field, no one wanted to run out of the visiting team's locker room because they would have to run by his cage. I like intimidation with a mascot. Yep. I really do. It's why I think Ralphie is one of the best mascots in sports.
Oh, yeah.
Ralphie still gets thrown on the field. Ralphie still gets to do his thing. And if Ralphie were up for consideration here, it'd be a runaway. It'd be a runaway for the non-UGA choices. But, yeah, I don't think Mike the Tiger ever being on the field would fly in this day and age. When did that happen? Do you know that off the top of your head?
I remember that from NCAA football. It was about 2009 or 2010 when they stopped doing that.
The leash. Can you imagine the adrenaline that it would? It's one thing to have a live buffalo. Live tiger, probably worse, I think. Gotta be.
Ralphie's another one with Tusk where it's like, that's a huge mascot. So not to, but Florida, you can get a gator ram. Just go get one. Just go outside and go pick one up. Just get him. It's right there.
Find a pond on campus.
Literally.
Just call
these viral videos of gators that are on golf courses. Just go, hey, we'll be right there.
Yeah. Whatever. I've seen it. I've seen plenty of them. Plenty of them golfing down here where, okay, I'm not getting that ball. That ball belongs to the gator, belongs to the creatures of the Florida Sea. Okay, Will, what direction are you trending in right now? Because I feel like we've gotten some good ones here, but I don't have a clear non-UGA choice that's standing out to me.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick an overall, and then I'm going to take LSU out and rank the Tigers. Okay. So I'm going to pick Albert as my number one overall, right?
Okay.
Because the only thing that you have, again, I would just get a live gator. The only literal negative about Albert is that he's edible. Okay, and when you got LSU as a rival, you don't want an edible mascot. Again, going back to the only knock on Tusk too. Now again, you've seen Waterboy. Caden's will eat about anything, so don't let that stop you. They would probably eat a Mizzou Tiger if they could find one. Now that being said, like I said, for all the reasons I said, the Gators are so synonymous with Florida. You got to have, the chomp is super sick. It's super recognizable. I can imagine, it's been a championship level mascot. I can imagine Albert, hosting a championship. I think it's the most, it's unique while still fitting the topography and the landscape of Florida. The Swamp as the name of a stadium where, only Gators come out alive. I think that's some of the best branding in the world. The Jordan logos all over the Gator. I mean, top to bottom, I'm going to give it to Albert / his baddie, Alberta.
I think I'm there. With you. Even though the pitch was a little bit repetitive at the end here, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head with being able to be unique. It's hard to say that the Tiger mascot, one of the many Wildcat mascots, is definitively the best. And maybe that's why those are so outward about like their dancing and stuff like that, which I don't really care as much. That's not really my thing. I like being unique. I like when if I'm playing NCAA, when it cuts to the mascot, I feel like I actually want to see that mascot and I'm not just like rolling my eyes, something like that. So look, that makes a lot of sense. We didn't have any Sir Big Spur on here either, but that it gets a little bit murky with, that's just like the War Eagle thing. Like what's actually the mascot. Cocky is considered the mascot for South Carolina.
Cocky is cool, but I think you're right. I think he could have an update because Sir Big Spur, while he is cool, was incredibly edible. Like he's the number one most edible mascot. So I think we got to hitch our wagon here. That's my feedback to South Carolina is let's make a little bit goofier or a little bit scarier of a Cocky,
Is Bevo even more edible?
I feel like I could hunt down a chicken if I needed to. I wouldn't want to at least tussle with Bevo because of those horns. I feel like eating chicken is pretty, easy.
Yeah, I've seen Rocky. I could do it. Definitely.
Oh, I didn't make the Tigers. Albie is number 1 to me.
Okay.
2 is Truman. I think those are close. Pretty big drop here. I'm going to go with the Memphis Tiger. He's starting to look a little bit scary.
Yeah.
That Clemson Tiger. What is going on in his little head?
I don't know, man. Are they doing that to go viral? I think
they're just horrible at branding. Clemson is the worst branded sports organization I've ever seen in my life. It's just not even close. The logo's horrible. The colors don't make any sense. They combine LSU and Auburn, and it's terrible because Heisman was there. So yeah, that is a bottom tier mascot.
The Nittany Lion is pretty rough.
But he's bad on purpose. That's what I'm trying to tell you. He's the same mascot from 1900. That's hilarious to me. Like when you look at him, you laugh.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
The BYU one's bad. Now, if you don't think the dancing's cool, he's terrifying looking. He's like the cousin of the Clemson Tiger.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, look, I'm gonna go with Florida. I'm gonna go with Albert and Alberta. I love that. I love the names. I love that it's unique. It's like a husband and wife type deal. Like, I don't know, that gets points for me. It perfectly represents Florida in so many different ways. There's not confusion over like, oh, is this the mascot? Is that the mascot? Like, what do we take pride in? Now it's unique to you. Let's go with Florida. Let's go with Florida as our official non-UGA, non-Mike the Tiger mascot of the Saturday Down South podcast.
Yep. And Smokey, you were right there, man. You just got to land the pitch.
God, that pitch it started off so
strong.
It was. I was getting ready. I was getting ready for Smokey to be the official mascot, but no, can't quite pull the trigger on that. Thank you for all the responses. If you would like to be involved in Pitch Me, you should follow us on forums of social media. We're taking a lot of these responses, obviously, from Instagram and from the Saturday Down South podcast Facebook group. If you have not, leave us a 5-star review. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can watch every single episode of the Saturday Down South podcast. Follow us on the app formerly known as Twitter, @the SDS Pod, @SatDownSouth, @CJ O'Gara, @GoSoHard. Thanks, guys. Talk soon.